In this lesson, we'll take a look at some of the tools that can be used when modeling with more of a subdivision or smoothing workflow. So again, we'll start from a blank scene, and let's just go ahead and bring in a polygon primitive, and let's just start with a cylinder. And I'll just use keyboard entry to create it right there at the origin, and then we'll go to our modify panel to change the parameters. And so let's go ahead and increase the radius a bit. Turn on edged faces so that we can see that. I'll take the height down a little, and I want to increase the number of sides here. So I'm going to increase that to maybe 20 sides so it's a little bit smoother. So we get a disc that looks like this. Now, our final object, let's say, we want to have more of a smooth shape. So we're going to use this as a basis or a cage for that subdivided shape underneath, more of a subdivision or smoothing type of an object. And so there are multiple ways that we can do this, and we kind of looked at this earlier, but one of the easiest ways, if we go to convert this to an editable poly, we can go under our subdivision surface rollout, or up here in our graphite modeling tools, and turn on use NURMS subdivision, and that'll get you something that looks like that, which it doesn't look like much now. What's basically happening is, again, the polygon cylinder is being smoothed, and you're seeing that smooth version underneath. So now we can actually use our polygon modeling tools, but we can see the smooth version underneath this. So if we go to a polygon sub-object, you can see that we can see our orange cage. But if we select a particular polygon, you're actually seeing the smooth version of that polygon, or the corresponding polygon there on the smooth surface. And so what we want to do is use our modeling tools on this. So we'll select a polygon here, and then I'm going to skip 3 and select another polygon, do the same thing all the way around. So at the end we have 5 polygons selected. So we can now use our basic modeling tools. We can go down to edit polygons, we can go to extrude or bevel. Let's use bevel this time. We'll go into settings, and this will allow us to kind of do an extrude out, but it will also give us a setting called outline that we can use to scale up or down the endpoints of those spokes. So pulling that out a specific distance, I'll say OK to that. Now you can see how it's actually being smoothed from this line all the way up to this line and over. So it's creating this smooth cap on here. If we don't want this, all we have to do is actually delete those end faces, and then there'll be nowhere to smooth it to. So if we do that, you can see it creates a hole there, but the smoothness still stays around this direction. Okay. All right. Now, if we select our object and go to our subdivision surfaces, if it's not smooth enough, if you want to increase the number of iterations in the display, you can go ahead and increase that to 2, and you can see how that makes it even smoother. All right. Let's go ahead and select the face right up here, and I want to add a little bit of definition here. So rather than doing an extrude, let's actually do an inset, which is like an extrude, except the geometry doesn't move off of the surface. It just kind of scales it in. And so you can kind of see what that looks like here. Okay, so we'll do a little bit here, and I want to do another one, so I'll just say apply and continue this time. We'll leave our manipulator up. Okay, say OK. Now if we want to use bevel, we could do a little bit of a bevel. This time we'll kind of push this down into the surface. Let's decrease that outline amount. Okay, so we end up with something like that. Say OK, we'll do another inset. So these are going to be inset, bevel, and extrude are going to be tools that you're going to be using a lot when doing your polygon modeling here. Okay, now looking at this, you can see that there are some areas that are very smooth and some areas that we might want to sharpen up. So one way to do that would be to actually add edges here to actually sharpen that up. So in order to do that, we'll go to edges. Okay, and you can see where the edges are. And let's say we want to add some edges right along here. Okay, so what we can do is go to Swift Loop and just add those edges right in there. Okay, and you can see the result immediately as far as what that resulting smooth surface looks like. Okay, if we go ahead and exit that, turn off edged faces, you can see how it's now a bit sharper up there at the top. Okay, we can also actually set a hardness level for the edges themselves. So in this case, let's say we want to harden up the edges up here. We'll go ahead and select that edge loop, which is this loop right around here. And if we want to actually sharpen that up, we can go down to Edit Edges, and there's a value for creasing. We can actually increase that creasing value. Okay, if we go ahead and bring it all the way up, you can see how it is extremely sharp there. But we didn't have to add any resolution. We didn't have to add any extra edges. So that's one good thing about working with a model like this, where you have the ability to do some creasing on this. Okay, so and we've got that. There's also another option as far as the modifiers go to work with subdivision, and this actually gets into the hierarchy of the subdivision surfaces. We're not going to get into that right now, but if you want to check that out, it's in the modifier list, the HSDS modifier, and that will actually allow you to subdivide specific areas and smooth those out to create a hierarchy. So level 1, 2, and 3, let's say, and then you can modify progressively that, but it won't really use it that much. So we'll cover it in a course a little bit later on. In the Intro to Modeling, we'll actually cover that specific modifier. And so make sure to check that out, Introduction to Modeling in 3ds Max. Check that out, okay? And so that is sort of how we can get in there and smooth that. We can also grab some of these polygons. So let's say we'll get this polygon here and here, basically right in the center there. And now we can modify this. We'll go to Inset to create a little bit of an inset there. Okay, we'll say OK to that. And let's now extrude those in to the surface. So we'll change that setting to go down into the surface. Okay. And you can see how it's very, very sharp because it's kind of going straight down. So if instead you wanted to use bevel, you could take that down, but you could also bring that in so it's a little bit smaller there. Let's bring this up a little. Okay. So it's a little bit more of kind of just an indentation there. Okay. And we forgot that one, so we could go ahead and do that one as well. Select that polygon. Go ahead and redo the bevel. Okay. Actually, we want to do the inset first, and then we'll do our bevel. Okay. And you can see the smooth version underneath with the hardness added at specific edges based on the new edges that we added within the polygon itself, or the creasing that we added along here. And you can always take that creasing away if you want to change that or modify it. Okay. And so at any time, if you want to modify this and look at it, the basic polygon, you can just turn off your subdivision there on the graphite modeling tools or under the subdivision surface rollout. And that will allow you to see your NURMS, use your NURMS subdivision. Okay, and you can change the iterations as well. Okay, this is in the display. You also have settings for rendering if you want to change it based on the renderer. So maybe you want to work on it a little bit rougher and then make sure it's very smooth when you actually render it. So that's another way to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and in the next lesson look at how we can start to put the different pieces of our models together, start to organize things a little bit more, and combining and breaking models apart, things like that. So we'll go ahead and talk about that in the next lesson.